Now, more warnings today on Scotland's new gender recognition bill due to be voted in Holyrood this afternoon. We'll update you, of course, as we get more from Holyrood. Incompatible, we're told, with existing UK-wide legislation on equality. Now, it should make it easier to acquire gender recognition certificates to change your designated gender for documents such as birth certificates, and will apply if it goes through to anyone over the age of 16. So it's dropped the age limit. But in England, institutions such as schools and prisons don't recognise that certificate. They could find themselves in breach of the Equalities Act. Our political reporter, Olivia Utley, who's become our Scottish gender expert, joins us now. You've been following the story closely. Just to update people, I mean, that session is going on with First Minister's questions, and we're likely to get a vote this afternoon. They're really still trying to push it through. They
are. It was supposed to go through late last night, but the sitting ended up going on until after 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was decided that the final vote should be delayed until today, basically to give people some sleep. Why it was delayed so much is because there were countless points of order from Conservative MSPs who were trying to filibuster, essentially, to get this legislation.
153 amendments in total.
153 amendments. The speed at which this is being done really can't be underestimated. It's hugely seismic legislation, and they're trying to get it through before Christmas. The theory is that why that's happening is because Kate Forbes, who's a close ally of Nicola Sturgeon on independence issues and is seen as a great talent in the SNP, a rising star, she is opposed to this legislation. And the last thing Nicola Sturgeon wants is Kate Forbes there, basically sticking a needle in her side, making things more difficult for her. At the moment, conveniently, Kate Forbes is on maternity leave, but she's due to come back in January.
Which is why some people are suggesting they're trying to push this through at a pretty fast rate.
A rapid rate to get it all done and tied up so that Kate Forbes can come back and just have absolutely nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and are we expecting a vote later this afternoon? Is that the sort of deadline?
Yes, we're expecting a vote at, I think it's 4:30 or 5 o'clock this afternoon. This issue which has come up again today about the compatibility with English law is an interesting one, because the government has already said, the government in the UK has already said that there is a serious issue with this incompatibility.
Because the equality law has to actually be in place for the whole of the UK.
Exactly. And there's a problem with the idea of sort of gender tourism, people in England going to Scotland to change their gender so that they can come to England and be treated as a different gender.
Complex as ever. Olivia, thank you for that. Let's bring in now Dr. Kate Coleman, who's director of Keep Prisons Single Sex. Kate, thank you very much indeed, because obviously one of the issues that has caused a controversy is the suggestion that single-sex spaces could be compromised by this legislation.
Well, exactly. I think, first of all, I really do take issue with the accusation of filibustering. I think that's extremely insulting to the voting general public. And as Olivia correctly states, this is a seismic piece of legislation. This piece of legislation will enable anybody over the age of 16, for any reason, to obtain a new copy birth certificate, which changes the recording of their sex registered at birth and overwrites that with their acquired gender. The impact of
we should
on
add
women's single-sex spaces.
Yeah, we should add that, there are more than 60 LGBT plus groups who've written to MSPs urging them to back the legislation.
Well, yes, there are. But I think the general public, when this goes out to consultation, when we actually poll the general public and they understand what will be put in place with this piece of legislation to enable children over the age of 16 to change, for all intents and purposes, the recording of their sex, we find that the public are opposed to this. Rachel Hamilton, she quoted a poll where 81% of those polled in Scotland were opposed to lowering the age to 16. So I think this is just not correct to say that this has been consulted upon widely, that there is any sort of consensus why this piece of legislation should be pushed through. The amendments which Olivia and others across, SNPs, MSPs, we've had Labour MSPs, we have the Green Party MSPs, accusing the Tories of dirty tricks, of wasting time, of needless delays. These are very, very substantive issues. It's about the impact on prisons, the impact on healthcare, data recording. And to have all of these substantive issues dismissed as time-wasting filibustering is an absolute insult.
So very quickly, you believe they should be taking more time and more trouble to look at this more carefully?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. This is not an emergency piece of legislation.
Right.
I was in the chamber until gone midnight on Tuesday when the lights went out and the electricians had to come in and turn the lights back on. To force MSPs to sit hour after hour after hour is appalling, including those MSPs with disabilities. Jeremy Balfour spoke quite passionately about the impact on these MSPs, which was discounted.
I'm going to throw the switch because we're out of time this hour, but thank you for your view.